Okay, here's a quick little video explanation of how your review packet works. You should be working on this. Um, while I am out, I'll be back tomorrow. Basically, it kind of is broken down by units. If you complete this before the exam, you will. Those of you who are taking the exam will receive bonus points. If you're not taking the exam and you need some extra credit or you want to replace some grades, I'm going to use a review packet for that. And then as long as you have your review packet on the day of the exam, you get to use it. So it's referenced in examples and notes for you to fill in and to be able to use on some problems to review you. Some of the problems will be coming directly from this review, so you want to be able to work it out, know how to do it. And so our first section here, sorry for going back and forth, is talking about is in Unit 6, and I give you a description of where to find the information to fill in. We had a yellow graphic organizer. I'm going to go and show you what it looks like. It was this one right here. So you kind of want to look over, review maybe the colored paper or the notes or the photable, whatever I'm referencing to, and then also kind of look at the guided practice that's with it. So you need to look at this to kind of fill in. And one of the examples I have straight off the actual graphic organizer. So if you look here, favorite fingers are figures that have the same shape and same size. This is off the actual organizer. And so if you look, I'll show you right here. That was up here, same shape, same size. And we can determine congruency by looking at the order of our congruency statement, matching up the letters. That's the key to this. And then also looking at our markings. So if I go by remembering order right here, B here is in the middle, and if you look, it matches to angle. It would be angle M. Now if I'm doing two letters, A and C, first and last, that would be L and N. Okay, so those segments are going. And then here, so match up your letters. If you want to add that little note that was on the actual graphic organizer, you can. And then here, the markings matter. And on the graphic organizer, we talked about looking at the number of the markings. So 1 to 3 to 2, 1, 3, 2. And you want to have a combination of that when you're doing that. So let me go back to our example. Or if you just want to copy it from our graphic organizer, you can. So Z, if I look at angle Z here, angle Z was between the markings 1 and 3. So I need to have between 1 and 3 again. So that would be angle T. This is talking about side YZ. That had one tick mark. So I have to match it up with the same thing, which would be, ST. And then our angle R, if I look at angle R is over here, and it was between the sides with 2 tick marks and 3 tick marks. I need the same combination, 2 to 3. That would be angle X. Right? So basically, just read what's given here to go to those notes to fill in your examples to help you. And then you're going to have some examples that correlate with that skill. Okay. So like a problem number 1 here, this congruency statement is important because I can match up the letters to find the congruency parts. Sorry. So if I look here, like here it's talking about DF, right? That's the first and last letter. That would go with GH. Well, if I look for DF, DF is missing here, but I can figure out its measurement because I know it matches up with GH, and GH is over here. And so GH has a 16 on it, which means DF would also be 16 meters because they're asking for the missing measure here. Okay. As for like an angle, all right. So this is talking about angle F. Angle F is here. That is the last letter, and that matches up with angle H. And if I look, angle H is 105. And then when we get to, I believe it's our J here, the last angle, because I think you can see that our D and G match up, so that's the 34. But to get to our last angle J, the missing angle, you gotta remember that a triangle equals, that's a triangle symbol, equals 180. So if I add these together, I would end up getting a sum of 139, and then I just do 180 minus that 139, and I would get 41. Okay. Still use your problem solving skills, your triangle relationships to find that missing angle. So match up your letters to match up the measurements. All right, that's on the diagram. Now, for solving for x or for y here, you got to find where the x is. So like on this first one here, x is pointing to this angle R. Okay, and R matches with T, which would be over here. Now, I don't know T because there's no measure here, but what I do know is I have a 29, which is V. Oops, I meant to do that in blue. V. And V matches with S, which is also 29. So I can find, and I see the 90 degrees, the box. So I can find that missing angle just using the right triangle and what we just did previously, finding the missing angle. In right triangles, the two acute angles are always complementary. They're always equal 90. So instead of just adding all three, I just need to subtract 90 from the 29, and I'll get that this angle, this missing angle, excuse me, here would be 61. Okay. So now I can set that up because angle R is congruent to my angle T. And my R was the expression 8x minus 27 equals T, which is 61. Okay. And now we're just solving for x. Okay. So you need to match up the congruent parts to set up your equation. So on y here, y was on the segment VT. Okay. That's first and last. That would go with RS, which is right here, which is 25. So that means my 3y plus 7 is going to equal to 25. So use your notes to help you problem solve. If you don't have the notes, please take the time to check with the member, a classmate that's sitting around you to see if they have the same answer, the same information. Okay. So when you get to this next section, examples of proving, use your purple foldable. So the purple foldable they're referring to is this one right here. Okay. So you're going to need to basically open up the foldable and then kind of add your markings to indicate what it is. Now you can put the wording if you need it. You just need to really know and focus on your markings. So this first one is side, side, side. Okay, that's what it's indicating. So we should have the same tick marks with the corresponding sides. So then 2 tick marks and then 3 tick marks. Okay. So if one of the things we indicated, I'll go back to the notes here. Right here is 3 tick marks. We have to see those 3 tick marks to indicate that. So that's what you're doing. You want to add the notes, add the markings to this table here. If you were missing the right triangle, I apologize. We need to fix that. We'll put a sticker there to fix that if you're needing it, or you can cover over it. But if you're going to fill in our 5 ways of proving, remember no donkey, no angle, side angle, angle backwards, okay? Okay, no angle side side. And no just angle, angles. You can't just prove with angle, just the angles. And we talked about that. If I go back to the notes, it was right here. No, okay, no donkey terms, no side angle, can't do that. That's the reverse of donkey. these are not possible of proving. So just kind of look at that, put in the key information that you see into this, and then now we're going to mark the given information, known facts, and complete the concurrency statement. So I'm just going to go over a problem like this one. So our given is here. It's showing that NC is parallel. To show parallel, we need arrows. And then we have to remember, if I have arrows, then and I have a transversal, then I have alternate interior angles marked. So if you see parallel, okay, if, let me fix that, sorry. I'm just going to put the parallel symbol. If parallel, then you're going to have alternate interior angles congruent. Okay. So parallel indicates the arrow. If I go, now the other thing they tell us is NC, this segment is congruent to RO. And NC is right here. There's a tick mark. And RO, there's a tick mark. And then the other known fact, because we do given and then known fact, remember, is the shear side right here. So hopefully you see that a side they have in common, an angle that they have in common. That's why I put an A there. And another side. So this would be by side, angle, side. And then the next thing is you got to remember order matters. So if I'm saying from N to C to O, that means I went through the arrow and the tick mark. So I have to go from O to R to N. Okay. So try to see if you can fill in the markings and then complete the congruency statement. All right. And then from there, we go into CPCTC. Okay. It tells you where to look at these notes. So basically, the way the flow of the review works is you look at the bullet or the Roman numeral, you go find those notes to help fill in the key information that you need. And then you're going to use that information with the sample problem. So we use CPCTC when we were doing proofs. I just kind of want to recap that with you, and then I'm going to let you go to finish. So remember, our first statement is always a given information. So if you look right here, they said AC is congruent to AR. That was given, and we want to mark that also, tick mark and tick mark on the diagram. So we have a second given statement. Well, here's the second given statement. It says angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. That means we need to put an arc on those. Then it says, our statement says angle CAL is congruent to RAS. Well, that's a known fact. What they're talking about here are the vertical angles, okay? And so we can just write, the reason I know that is definition of vertical angles, or vertical angle theorem, okay? Okay. And then now I'm proving that the triangles are congruent, because if I look, they have an angle, and a side in common. So these two triangles are congruent by the AAS. Okay. And now that I have proven congruency, because you have to say triangles are congruent before you can even use the acronym CPCTC. You have to say congruency about triangles first, then you can say CPCTC. But the other rule was, anytime I'm trying to find what I'm trying to prove, that always goes on the last line, okay? And if I look down here, this statement is already, oh, we're missing that statement, sorry. Angle 3, sorry, that should be here. Angle 3 is congruent. I'm going to draw a line to this. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. Looks like I copied that over. There's a typo there. And I know it's congruent using the CPCTC. Congruent. Corresponding parts in congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, and now we're going on to unit 7. So it tells you to go to that section, look for the green graphic organizer. Okay, there's 3 ways to prove similar. Angle, similarity. The second one right here should be side. That doesn't look very nice. Let's try that better. Not much better. Sorry about that. And then you want to mark it. So you need to add the markings from the example on from the graphic organizer here. And then we can do some practice. So I do want you to kind of work on these problems, use your notes. You want any information to help you in the packet, on the examples, in the spaces, because you remember you get to use this on your test, and a lot of the questions are going to be similar or exactly, but more like similar, but maybe exactly these questions in the review. So work on this and we'll be able to go over it when I return. All right, thanks.